PGA Tour players are feeling betrayed after a significant announcement hit the golf world, and what this means for the Rebel League is extremely shocking. The Open Championship just announced that eligible golfers from the Saudi-funded series will be allowed to participate in this year's edition. Yep, you heard that right. LIV golfers have officially been granted entry into yet another major. However, some people are of the opinion that this is a betrayal to the PGA Tour loyalists. What consequence will it have? Will it deepen the existing rift between both tours? Stick around to find out. Golf's biggest feud has taken center stage, with everybody wanting to have an opinion. But what does the R&A chief executive have to say about all this? You see, Martin Slumbers said he had no problem with players choosing their tournament and taking the prize money that LIV awarded them. On the other hand, he voiced reservations over the LIV golf model and the player paths that led there. However, Slumbers has once again stuck to his words from back in July about not banning LIV players, but he expressed his worries. "I'm concerned about some of the talks going on right now. However, I won't get into specifics," Slumbers said. He was deeply concerned about eroding pathways, and he was worried about values being lost. To get a better understanding of his opinion, you might want to ask yourself why a lot of people play golf. You see, most people play the sport because they believe it will benefit them. They like spending time with their buddies, and they appreciate the honesty that golf demands. Few people participate because they may cash in big, and that's his subtle point. According to him, golf values are important. The LIV discussion runs the risk of losing some of those ideals. Also, some of the pathways and meritocracy may have already eroded, which would not benefit the sport's long-term health. Money is obviously necessary, but so are good values and ethics. Well, at least that's Slumbers' view. He believes that the LIV golf model will erode golf values, but still he didn't allow it to becloud his sense of reasoning. Instead, he maintained that in contrast to the PGA Tour's action, the Open Championship would not ban LIV players, while calling on the tension between the warring tours to subside. You see, the banning of Rebel League players who ditched the American-based circuit seemed to have occupied the airwaves for a pretty long time, with various media houses claiming players on both tours don't see eye to eye. But world number one Jon Rahm apparently differs from that opinion. According to the 28-year-old, all the players get along pretty well, and the media should be blamed for blowing it out of proportion. Rahm also said that if there is some kind of animosity between the players, they'd probably be avoiding each other. But maybe we need to school Rahm on the recent happenings if he claims not to be aware. From Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods lashing out at Greg Norman, to Norman calling Woods the PGA Tour's puppet, and even the incident where Rory snubbed Patrick Reed on the range before the Dubai Classic, there's a whole lot going on behind the scenes that even the players are trying to cover up. However, LIV golfers being allowed into this year's Open shouldn't be much of a surprise, as Slumbers signaled as much last fall when he said the organization would go public this January-February with their decision regarding the players on the rival tour. While speaking with Golf Digest, Slumbers referred to his statement last July when he said they weren't banning anyone. He also said they weren't going to betray 150 years of history and have the Open not be open. In his words, "We will ensure that there are suitable pathways and ways to qualify." I'm looking forward to seeing Cameron Smith tee up at about 9:40 a.m. on the first day of the Open. The Open needs to distinguish itself from the ongoing disagreements and ensure we stay true to our principle of having the finest players in the world competing. But let's face it, when the rival tour has drawn some of the game's biggest names with its incredible prize money, it has also had drawbacks. Seeing players like Sergio Garcia, Dustin Johnson, Lee Westwood, and even Phil Mickelson face bans for their participation in LIV golf seems a bit petty. But those are the current facts in the LIV versus PGA war. They were banned because they participated in LIV golf's Invitational Series without authorization from the PGA. It was basically making a decision and having to deal with the consequences that come with it. And like Rory McIlroy put it, they made a decision and should be prepared to face the consequences. But the tour's action was met with various reactions, with some saying that the players exceeded the bounds of the regulation, so they had to expect nothing short of a suspension, while others said joining a new league wouldn't be an offense. Following the ban, which shook the golf community, speculations began to arise about whether the Rebels will also be banned from the Open tournament. However, the Open Championship has stated that it won't be banning any player from the competition. Following this announcement, which of the Rebels will be eligible to tee off at Royal Liverpool Golf Club in England? While announcing the exemption categories for this year's event, the R&A noted golfers who have already qualified, and they include past Open champions who rebelled against the PGA Tour: Phil Mickelson, Louis Oosthuizen, and Henrik Stenson, and defending champion Cameron Smith. Bryson DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson will be in the field via their top 10 finishes at St. Andrews last year. The duo was also exempt for having won major championships in the last 5 years. Patrick Reed and Brooks Koepka are also in for having won majors in the last 5 years. Taylor Gooch will also get a spot based on qualifying, but not competing in the season-ending Tour Championship on the American Tour. And Joaquin Niemann is in via the Tour Championship. Along with Richard Bland, Thomas Pieters, who joined the Rebel Series this year, is in the field for finishing among the top 30 in last year's Race to Dubai standings. There's also a long list of exemptions we don't need to dive into, but the biggest, juiciest piece of news is that the Rebels are going to be able to play in the Open Championship. And this is really controversial to us because when people join LIV Golf, we have this whole thing of, yes, you joined LIV Golf, you can't play the majors. So this is where it all gets a little bit juicier. The Chief Executive Officer of the PGA of America, Seth Waugh, reportedly said that their decision has always been based on what is in the best interest of the PGA of America, conducting the best championship possible. And for me, that's an open admission that if you don't have some of these LIV Golf players playing, your championship and commercial value just isn't as strong. And that has to be true. You wouldn't have the likes of Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, and even Cameron Smith, just to name a few on that list, who are major characters in the game, but also big-time players. That's almost like an admission that golf is stronger with LIV golfers playing in it, which most of us can't disagree on, because irrespective of what tour they play, they are just good players. But all of these gains don't take away the fact that the Saudi-backed circuit isn't recognized by the official world golf rankings, meaning its players can't accumulate any points because it has no cut and the tournaments are only over 3 rounds. But Norman seems to be growing impatient. His statement speaks volumes on his next move. He questioned why the OWGR is the only system, and this sparked controversy, with many speculating that LIV Golf's commissioner might have plans to float or key into an already existing program set to rank players. You see, Sports Illustrated has come up with a new World's Top 100 list. Now, there are a few differences, but this list puts Dustin Johnson at number 13 and Cameron Smith at number 6 in the world. The top 20 doesn't really change as it's still made up of the PGA Tour players. Now, how does that look for LIV? I think that's a question best answered by the Shark, and only time will tell if he'll jettison his quest to gain recognition by the OWGR and focus on the recently launched ranking system. But do you think the PGA Tour players should feel betrayed? What do you make of the Rebels participating in yet another major? And we'll catch you in the next one.